Hello, and welcome to another episode of Leader Generation brought to you by Mata. I'm your host, Tessa Burg, and today I am joined by Elli. She's the head of ad product and innovation at media.net. She has been an instrumental and transformational leader throughout her career, winning numerous awards from Ad Exchanger and Ad Monster. Elli, we are so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Tessa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
So this episode is coming at a perfect time. Not only is it Women in Tech Day on April 4th, but I think everyone can relate to all the change that is happening right now in both the tech and marketing landscape and really across every industry. And your career has spanned many different industries. Tell us about your past and the journey to your position here at media.net.
Yeah, I mean, change in my career and in life has been constant. I've been in media and ad tech for over 20 years, and I've led bold transformative transformations across industries. It includes TV to DSPs to broadcast, then to publishing, podcasting, and now I'm on the SSP side at media.net, revolutionizing curation and data-driven targeting. So it's been really interesting to see how the space has evolved and how quickly that evolution has accelerated. But my focus has always been on embracing change. I'm always curious, asking questions, and I really love building cultures of innovation and pushing the industry forward and changing or challenging the status quo.
And that always sounds beautiful and sounds nice, but it comes with a lot of challenges because it really is not human nature to want to change. And people are finding them in a space where they want it to be optional. They want change and evolution to be something they might do, but they're not quite sure yet. In your past, when you've worked at different companies, how have you helped align people's personal motivations with the company's vision and with building something and delivering something that is true innovation?
Yeah, I find that a lot of people believe that change is necessary and then they'll bring you in to impact change and help drive change. But it almost always goes hand in hand with resistance, even from the same individuals that understand that change is needed. So there's a constant resistance to change. I think it's in our human nature to resist things that take us out of our comfort zone and challenge us or move us into areas that aren't so easily understood at the time. But that is the prerequisite of being able to really survive and remain relevant in today's day and age, especially with AI driving so much innovation and compound increase of change across organizations. So I've always been faced with skepticism and inertia, and I think what I've learned is to kind of come in knowing that that is a natural response and reaction to change. It's not personal, and remained and sort of focused and diligent on the fact that we are here to do good things that will continue to bring value to the organization, but also the individuals within it. And so for me, it's about demonstrating the value of these new changes or these new technologies or a new process, for example, helping stakeholders understand and align on what our shared vision is, enabling them and also highlighting their contributions. And then at the end of the day, embracing change as a team and sort of taking a crawl, walk, run approach. Because if you do sudden change, we also don't know what the impact would be on that. It's not just the human element, it's also the professional element of that. Did this change actually have a positive impact, or are we doing change for the sake of doing change? And so I think by taking a data-driven walk, crawl, run approach, it gives people time to adjust and pivot when they see that value. And it also allows organizations to take in market feedback and client feedback and really understand if what we're doing is viable and is bringing value to the market, or if we're doing it because it's the new buzzword and the popular thing that everyone is talking about.
I love that answer. It's rich with so many good steps for anyone who is facing resistance. When you talk about demonstrating value, can you give us a couple of examples of what that might look like or what you've done at different companies you've led?
Right. Yes. I think value can be different for different people. Depends on who you're talking to. But when I work across different partners or stakeholders within an organization, that will bring in varying degrees of expertise and levels of understanding of certain initiatives. And so, for example, when you're speaking to the board of directors or someone in the C-suite, they usually like to see some sort of output from a revenue perspective, or an enhancement, an operational or monetary enhancement, or really an increase in market share. And so you talk data from that perspective to them. But it's also critical for them to understand that there are areas of improvement for cross-channel collaboration with team members, because when your team is in flow and they love what they're doing and they feel like they are part of a bigger thing and not just outputting tasks or product features, it creates an environment of collaboration and passion. And that then has a really important and compounding positive effect on culture, collaboration, and people just liking what they do and who they're doing it with. And so, from that perspective, I might take a data driven approach, but then also highlight the human element of the effects within the organization of driving change, but also keeping everyone aligned. When you're speaking to other stakeholders within the organization that may not have such a 10,000-foot view, it's about what the value their contributions are bringing, and it's a constant flow of feedback. So what expertise do they have, and how is that going to enhance, or what ideas do they have on being able to improve upon something? But most importantly, what does the market want? I think a lot of people who work in data or product or even marketing teams, sometimes they can be in a silo, or maybe think myopically in terms of what their individual contributions are. But when we look at the data from the market and the feedback from the market holistically as a whole and as a unified group, we can really come up with inspirational ideas and brainstorming that maybe go outside of each individual's day to day. And so encouraging broad thinking is really where I sort of focus when it comes to the stakeholders that maybe aren't looking at things from a 10,000 degree level.
You hit on something that I think even the most senior leaders miss, and that is whoever is designated to lead change within the organization is dedicated to that change. And that means communicating differently to different groups. It means getting people comfortable with being uncomfortable. And to your last point, pulling them out of the day-to-day. I see a lot of change initiatives fall flat because there's a belief that as long as we all agree on the process and align on the steps, then that's it. Then we just got to roll it out. And so maybe it's 50% of someone's day, or maybe it's 25% of someone's day. But when you're talking about real innovation and real change that's going to make a measurable impact, it's a heavier lift. And you have to change the message. You have to change how people connect with you, depending on the audience and depending on their expertise. But I love that you highlighted the benefits.
Right.
They have buy-in, then they're a part of it. And I have seen so many times mandates don't work. You can't have a singular message, a singular demo of value and be like, well, if you don't understand this, then.
Right. I think we hear this a lot. Like Steve Jobs used to say this, and it's a quote people often refer to, like, I hire smart people to do smart things. Everyone in an organization has ideas, and everyone has inspiration, and everyone has expertise. And so I believe that if you are sort of forcing a process and the process isn't working, or worse, it is working, but it's falling short and missing opportunity to enhance outputs because we are not allowing people to spread their wings or really think outside the box. And I think that is short-sighted. And a process is meant to be directional. It only works as long as it brings people together and it allows them to do what they do, so they know when the outputs are expected or when they know certain things are launching. But at the same time, if you box in thinking or ideas or capabilities, I just think that is it's just a shame. You're missing out on tapping into your most valuable resource, which is the people in the organization that are doing the work and are out in the market and understand those two concepts, like the technology and what we're building, and also what the market's appetite is and where it's headed. And you never know where that idea might come from, and it's usually not from the loudest people in the room. And so if you're leading a product or a product launch or a launch of a market strategy, these ideas may come from the most junior people in the organization, just from them being in that life stage and accessing that technology and utilizing it in their day to day, which may not relate at all to what they're doing from a professional standpoint. And that's why I always emphasize not only diversity of collaboration, but diversity of workforces, because different ideas come from different people depending on their life experiences. And so encouraging that in the process would be effective versus forcing a process and hoping, not hoping, but forcing a process and thinking that this process will just go smooth. And processes are never smooth, especially when you have multiple stakeholders and varying degrees of initiatives running in parallel. The process is directional, and it should, be a live working process that develops and merges as things move. And so the process is, for me, is just a blueprint. It's the people within the process that dictate what that should be, and each initiative might come up with a different sort of process.
Yeah, I love that. And something that we've been working on is creating different types of spaces to get more passive feedback and to get people who maybe feel too busy, too overwhelmed, or like you said, they just don't want to be a voice in the room. Like they
Mhm.
have ideas, but that being a voice, communicating during all company meeting, where sometimes, I've seen senior
Right.
leaders like, who has an idea? Well, the person who raises their hand might be confident, but it's not reflective of the quality of the content. What kind of tools have you used to get more people involved and organize the ideas?
Right.
Because then you have the other side where sometimes it's just like a stinking flood of ideas coming in.
That's exactly it. And I love this question because it taps into the vulnerable side of me, where I am naturally, most people would say I'm an extrovert, but really I'm an introvert. And even though I'm not afraid to voice an opinion or stand up in a room, it's not really where I thrive. It's not my comfort zone. And I realized early on that I needed to find a different channel to voice my ideas, because then my ideas would show up somewhere else, or maybe I've shared them in a private conversation and then someone would take that idea and run with it. And I'm like, this keeps happening because you are not voicing your ideas in the right channels, and then it's not flowing to the right stakeholders. And so I definitely am empathetic to people that may have a similar experience or maybe a similar sort of nature. And so for me, it's about creating a combination of joint meetings and collaborations where the bolder people or the bolder ideas can be shared and whiteboarded, and we can, have a passionate debate within an open forum. But then there's also like more private and more intimate channels that I use. And that could be anything from like a individual form fill out. And so if we do have a group meeting and there's someone that was inspired or had an idea and they want to share it, it can be done anonymously through a form, or they can submit their email and submit that idea through that form. And that goes to our funnel alongside all the other ideas. There's also one-on-ones. I'm a huge advocate for connecting with people on a human level that are part of the process and doing constant check-ins, especially if they have expressed that they don't maybe necessarily feel comfortable being so public with their opinions. And then I help guide them in ways to advocate for their ideas, either through a presentation or getting them in touch with the right people to advocate for that and get buy-in. And so that requires mentorship and guidance, which I love to do, because I feel like if I had asked for that kind of help early on in my career, it would have really enabled me to spread my wings faster and overcome my fears faster. And I think it would have helped excel my career much faster. And so I hope to do that for anyone I work with, just despite the level of experience they have or where they are in an organization, to find ways to share their voice, even if it's not vocally in a public forum. But yeah, I don't know if that helps answer your question, but I think it's an important one because people tend to be really shy and introverted on ideas when you're in rooms with really smart PhD level tech people, and you're like, this might be a silly idea or one that people will laugh at. And in my opinion, there is no such thing. A lot of the things we're building today have never been done before. And I think bold thinking and bold ideation is what is behind all these unicorns and companies you're seeing now. And the bolder and the bolder you are, and the higher the risks you're willing to take, moving outside your comfort zone, I think the higher the reward. And embracing that and helping people understand that, and leaning more towards that thinking, will have a tremendous impact on the mental health of of the people within an organization, but also the functioning of the companies and the organizations.
This emphasizes the point that leading change is definitely a hard job, not easy. It takes a lot of personalizing communication streams. It takes a lot of communication in general.
Mm-hmm.
So you also mentioned that sometimes we get stuck a little too internally, and it's kind of easy to see why. Like if you go down a rabbit hole of prioritizing different ideas and really exploring what it takes to launch those, because we're talking about technology. So there's no idea where it's like, oh, that'll be easy and simple. Everything
Right.
is going to take multi-layers, collaborating with multiple departments. What tools are you using, or when do you bring it back to, hey, let's vet this and check it against the market? Because I do see right now in AI,
Mm-hmm.
are really excited about all the shiny objects, and they start using them for themselves. And like, well, I really love this. Look at all the things I can do. Look at the things that we can now build. Where in that process are you making sure, like, we're excited, we got momentum, we got buy-in. Let's make sure this is going to bring value to our clients and customers.
Yeah, it's so I use AI daily, and I think it's sort of, at this point, I'm attached to it and I don't move without it. And most of it is being used to automate tasks, and then connect disparate data. And so data is market feedback. It could be, when we have a sales team out in market, pitching a proof of concept, or first to market execution, or a beta. There are questions we need answered, and expectations that need to be set. And so being able to have that output go out and then come in an organized fashion gives us leverage in moving more faster, but also taking a data-driven approach in what the market appetite is, or what the expectations are. So I use a lot of different type of AI for that, and it incorporates our CRM tool. It incorporates various Slack channels and different type of LLMs that can kind of create cohesion around this, and then create reporting that we usually put within our centralized product management tool. So that creates visibility. And so once that data is all collected and cleaned up a little, it creates cohesion on the messaging. So whoever's reading it, regardless of where you are in the organization, it makes sense. So it removes jargon, it removes not easily understandable acronyms. It removes and it makes it more generalized so that people can understand it and align. And that creates inspiration across teams, whether it be from a product and engineer that are thinking about new product features or iterations of a feature, or marketing in terms of the design elements, the tone and sentiment of certain, marketing decks or materials that are going to go to market. And then that also informs sales. Like what do we, is this product and feature, what is the problem and the solution? Are we, solving for that? Especially, is that a problem that the market does need to be solved? But then, are we doing it? Are we expressing that in a way that is easily digestible and sort of aligns with the way our clients would prefer to activate this? So that's one way I'm using automation. Another way is operational efficiencies. I mean, the whole premise of programmatic was to automate all the menial tasks of setting up and executing media campaigns, and those things that require a lot of detail and time. We can automate them in a market strategy or a product launch, so that the team has more time to think strategically and big picture. And so I use a lot of Zapier type of plugins. I use different type of AI for deck creations, because we need a lot of decks in our process, and a lot of forms and a lot of templates. And so creating cohesion in that, and quickly iterating those, because you could create a training deck for one feature, and then you launch it out, and there's a proof of concept phase, and it comes back 3 days later and it's a completely different product. And so time is a challenge sometimes, being able to connect with those teams across different global markets, and then iterating that information quickly is challenging. AI has helped us turn those concepts and ideas and that feedback into digestible documentation and decks that can easily be centralized and also disseminated throughout the organization. And then we use a lot of AI for like A/B testing and personalizing the experiences for our clients, whether it's our marketing sales approach or defining who our target audiences are, or the features and like the value proposition to the market. All of that kind of comes in within a centralized product management toolkit. And I think there's more. I'm probably missing a few. I think that's the gist of it, though. But I think AI is I don't even think of AI as something new. It's been something that we've used for like bidding strategies and programmatic and even machine learning. It's been around a really long time, but now it's become much more mainstream and it's no longer just like a tech on the back end. It's part of our day-to-day lives. And so I check in with AI, ChatGPT all the time on ideas and inspiration, or if someone uses a terminology at a panel I hear or talks about an idea and a concept, I can easily do market research using ChatGPT and Perplexity to sort of understand the global scope of that concept and bring it back to the teams for ideation and brainstorming. So it's just expanded our mindset, I think personally, expanded our mindset and incorporates automations in your day-to-day life and job so that you can be more strategic and help streamline process and cross-channel collaboration. So it's been incredible, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And what I loved about the examples you gave is there's a lot of humans in that process. And I think some companies are finding that they're using apps in silos. So maybe they're just using ChatGPT, or maybe they just rolled out Copilot. And so now they're saying, oh, we rolled out AI across the company. But in your examples, you're showing that you're democratizing participation in the innovation process by connecting tools, platforms, and data together, which
That's right.
is an engineered solution that then leverages AI,
That's
not,
right.
we just use this one AI app to do these things.
Right.
And there's, I think until people start really playing with the tools or trying to even build their own GPTs, you have to get to that point in your own adoption and maturity where you're like, oh, if I connect it to this data source, if I also use the CRM data, if I also take the results from the campaign that ran, where we have all the results now from all this A/B testing we did, we're going to be able to get even more insights about our audience and where they're at and continue to make those feedback loops richer.
Right. I hear a lot about the fear aspect of AI, and while there are aspects of any kind of technology that is intelligent that go into Orwellian thinking, but I don't want to focus on that because I remember when I was younger in my career and programmatic started to surface, and even things like SEO, SEM, and it started to really challenge the way media was bought at the time. And TV was recorded and it was like based performance was based on and measured based on GRPs, which is basically like manual like journaling from individuals that were randomly chosen from a certain zip code. Statistically, that never made sense to me, and I'm not even a mathematician. But when SEO and SEM came to the surface, we were actually able to um, measure the activity on your website or even in store through an exposure to an ad or a keyword search campaign. And so that level of accountability for me was always enticing. And I think that's why I always felt like I was drawn to programmatic, because it gave us the ability to hold our media budgets accountable to performance. And I always felt like, well, if I'm doing something as an advertiser, if I'm investing, I really want to know if this is working. Is it enhancing the experience for my consumer, or is it disruptive, or is this a product people want? And so that mindset allowed me to embrace AI. But I struggled with it a lot. Like sometimes you think, is this going to create redundancy in the work or the skill set I possess, or where is this headed in the future? But I think if we take a fear-based approach in decisioning, we would never evolve. Like if we think about that, like I guess someone in the past might have looked at the idea of an airplane and thought that is crazy. It's dangerous. Why would you ever want to do that? And now it's part of our daily lives, and it's just part of evolution. So I think with every technological evolution that we've seen, and especially in media, it just allows the people to level up faster and access more information and make more strategic decisions that bring value back to the whole industry. And it may remove some of the day-to-day tasks that you're currently working on, which we may consider our individual skill set, but it enhances others that you may have never been able to tap into or even didn't exist because the technology wasn't there prior to that. And so I think the earlier we embrace this technology, the faster we can understand and tap into other aspects of our passion and our capabilities that were never available to us previously. And do I think there should be regulation around this? Do I think that in many aspects of AI across not just media, but in general AI, do I think there could be dangers in its utility? Like, yes, we see that in media today. There's AI technology is creating videos and voiceovers on, and it's fake and it's not accurate and it's not reflective of where we want to be as an industry. So I definitely think there's regulation that needs to happen there, but I don't see it as a threat to the element of the human element behind the utility of AI. I just think it's going to elevate us all and give us more access to more information, and we just become better as a collective community. And even taking it further than media, like the access we have today to like understanding medical practices and like health, and the access to other people who are dealing with the same things that AI is helping bring forth. I think we're becoming better. I just think we're also becoming different. And it brings us back to what actually got us here in the beginning of this conversation. It's change. And change is hard. Change requires, in order for something new to happen, something old must first go away. And so that transition period isn't always easy for everyone.
Yeah, I I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying. I feel like I keep saying that, but now I also have the song Level Up stuck in my head from
There you
Sierra.
go. I love that song.
Well, and I think that what you hit on in summary is there are always going to be challenges and problems in the world, but when we think about innovation and what it means to solve those with innovation, we have to be comfortable with not immediately having the skills and the answer.
That's
Like,
right.
if you are willing to look at that problem and say, I might have to try to solve this differently. I might have to try this tool over here. I might have to collaborate with different people. And that's where really strong change leaders like yourself are so important, because that's really hard to do at large companies and at scale.
Right.
And you have had an entire career of success in that area. Um, One example, which I just think is kind of mind blowing, you helped ACAST grow by 200% in 1 year. And again, this is in podcasting at the time. That was new, that was an innovation. Like, what were some of the keys to success to get that type of growth in such a tight time frame?
Yeah, I mean, podcasting was fun. I really loved the premise behind podcasting, which is like everybody who had a microphone had a voice, and everybody can monetize that voice and create their own brand. So there was it was a passion project on top of the professional aspect of it as well. But when I arrived at ACAST, the whole purpose of that was to bring programmatic activation to podcasting. But when I first arrived there, I realized very early on that we really needed the good thing about it was ACAST did have a first mover advantage, and so they created a very lucrative model that worked internationally, and bringing it to the United States was very natural in its evolution. So programmatic was already being activated across other markets, but when you came to the US, it was a completely different market condition. And so we realized early on that this wasn't about offering an activation capability. It was about changing the hearts and minds of how podcasting media was entirely thought of and bought in this market. And so, For example, podcasting was thought of as an influencer mechanism and not necessarily a scale and reach play. And so we had to, go into every agency and brand and talk about that. In and of itself was a challenge, because they, shifting budgets from influencer to digital to then programmatic, that you're talking about multiple stakeholders across multiple departments in an agency that probably aren't even communicating with one another. And that also comes with the challenge of defining what those standards and best practices and KPIs are for each of those teams, and then changing hearts and minds around, like, do we buy a sponsorship, which is a long form conversation with a podcaster, versus the 30-second pre-recorded ads? Like, is that powerful? It's never been done before that way. What are, I don't really know if this is something I want to invest in, because it's a complete mindset change. And so we use a lot of data to create storytelling around that and show the proof in the pudding. I'm always talking about that. Like, if it works for this, particular segment or this particular subset of clients, can we scale that out to others? And once they see, there are some risks of shifting from sponsorship buying to pre-recorded ad buying, but they did see that the rewards were much higher. But while you're doing that, in order for that to be adapted, widely adapted, and then to become the norm, it's not just about collecting the data. There's actual work that goes behind that, like hard work, like working with organizations like the IAB to standardize it and create safety guardrails and align with advertiser expectations and demands around brand safety. None of that was being done yet in podcasting, because it was always an intimate one-to-one exchange between the advertiser and the podcaster. So it was a fun time. But I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned there is, time takes change takes time, and it also requires partnerships. And you cannot do this alone. Like, you can have a great idea, but you need advocacy across the industry to be able to exchange ideas, but also like bring forth change. And once you have that advocacy and that support from collaborators, you also have to find partners, people who are willing to take these risks with you and invest in them and test these notions and ideas out. And at the center of all of this, especially because when we were launching all of this at ACAST, it was during the pandemic, at a
I,
time where podcasting growth, the podcasting listenership was skyrocketing, but investors were very, were very, you know, conservative with the investments they were making, and they were very, very like risk adverse at the time. They really wanted to invest in media that they knew was tried and tested and safe. And everything we were suggesting was new and not risky, I guess, in my mind, but to them it was risky. And so timing is important in collaboration and partnership, and patience in being able to sustain this idea and the investment that goes into this innovation along the whole like change in the socioeconomic ecosystem and the mindset of advertisers and brands at a time when the economy wasn't exactly I would call consistent. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart, which is why I say, uh, embracing change and actually like chasing change, not chasing it, but like not being afraid to go with it, but also being comfortable in ambiguity, I think are the two qualities I see amongst those that have excelled their careers and their passion within programmatic. Because I don't think I've ever been in programmatic in any like 1 year where I can say, wow, nothing really is going on this year. You know,
right. Yeah.
things are status quo. They're exactly like they were. No, like every year there's something new, whether it's privacy and regulations or measurement and challenges in brand safety and new MFA, threats coming up. Like, it's something all the time. And so I think being comfortable with a bit of the chaos and ambiguity will allow you to thrive, and look at that as an advantage, and not something scary that you can't control.
So Ellie, we're at time, but before we leave, speaking of something new, you are at media.net. What are you most excited about in this next year, at this new company for you? You've been there 4 months.
Yes, I am so excited to be at media.net because they are what I would call the OGs of ad tech. They launched the first header bidding solution for publishers, and they're built on their mission to help publishers monetize more of their websites and sustain an open and democratic open exchange and open ecosystem in media. And so that purpose and that mission to me is very, very personal. It kind of ebbs and flows with what we talked about earlier with the podcasters, like giving everyone the ability to have access to journalism and news and access to information. But what I'm most excited about is they're taking that to the next level, and they're pretty much what we're doing is minimizing the hoops between the publisher and the advertiser. And so even though that requires some change and consolidation within the space, for the first time, I think in podcasting, we're getting to a place where there's data currency across both sides of the ecosystem. Advertisers have their data, and we, as an SSP who has been running a performance marketplace for a search intent performance marketplace for over 15 years, has all of this super valuable search intent data. So we know what consumers are looking for, we know what their intentions are, and we help bridge the gap between the user's search intent and the advertisers data and what their consumers are looking for in the market. And so that means not only do media dollars get invested, that means that advertisers are driving more efficiencies and effectiveness in their media campaigns, but also the publishers are monetizing more effectively and are making more money and sustaining an open exchange. And so super excited to see that we are bridging the gap between these two sides of the ecosystem to help bring forth effectiveness and efficiency in our messaging and what the information and the products we're bringing to the market, and just enabling more fair transactions and transparency within the value exchange of programmatic. So I'm really excited to be part of this mission at media.net and to be part of a team of such intelligent and thoughtful humans that are doing good work and have remained steadfast in their mission to sustain an open and fair ecosystem. So I'm humbled to be part of that group. So I was really excited.
That is amazing. And I love that solution because it's something that, I mean, even consumers want more
Exactly.
personalized targeting when it matters. So I love that your career has been in this determination and your resilience to no matter what, keep pushing innovation forward for good. And when you share that with others, it makes it so fulfilling. So thank you so much for being a guest today and sharing your insights and your learnings. And on April 4th, Women in Tech Day, it's been great to have you, and we're excited to follow your journey at media.net.
Thank you so much, Tessa, for having me, and keep doing what you're doing. We need you and everyone who's here advocating for innovation and change.
Thank you. And for all the listeners who want to hear more episodes of Leader Generation, you can find them at modop.com. That's modop.com, or search Leader Generation on any of the platforms that you listen to podcasts. Until next time, Ellie, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.